What's your why? Tell us your reason, and we'll help you achieve a healthier, longer, better life for you, for them.
The idea of the SHEeo Society actually came about when I was traveling around the globe, particularly in Europe. My favorite castle of all is the Neuschwanstein Castle, where the Disney castle was inspired from. Each castle, like each chamber, has a salon. And of course, like after that specific life-changing travel, I started studying. I started feeding my mind or like researching all about the monarchy. And one thing in particular that I was so in love with is, of course, Marie Antoinette. Particularly the movie of Sofia Coppola, so starring Kirsten Dunst, and it's really beautiful. And there's always that room, that specific room, which is the salon. And of course, from that grew my excitement towards salons. I created and I sculpted a space that looks like a salon where you can just, have coffee, have tea, or have wine, or sangria, or whatever cocktail that you want. And you just being yourself and your most authentic self, and everyone's just really welcoming you. That's the inspiration behind the SHEeo Society. The SHEeo Society is actually a modern salon and club for women entrepreneurs. So basically, we're built on 3 pillars here. That is a community, a platform, and a support system for success. So what we're looking for are passionate, mindful, authentic SHEeos all over the globe. And the idea is to keep launching them and support them as they venture towards their successes. So it's all about women empowerment, but really focusing more on economic success. So what we want is for you to launch your own business based on your most authentic essence. A SHEeo is effortless, sophisticated, confident, and empowered. So when we talk about the SHEeo, she's very admirable. And when I say she's well-traveled, she's seen the world, applying every bit of her experiences. And for me, that's what we're looking for. If you're a SHEeo and you fit all these qualities, then you're more than welcome to join our club. Hi everyone, my name is Maine. I am the SHEeo and I am the Talane, and welcome to the SHEeo Society.
I always had a reason not to. Not to move. Not to take care of myself. Not to care for the future. Until one day, I realized all
all my reasons not to were just not good enough.
What's your why? Tell us your reason, and we'll help you achieve a healthier, longer, better life for you, for them.
Here's a way to make it a great day.
Come on, sing, sing, sing it your way. When you shop on points and rewards, sing, sing, sing it your way. It's an app, make shopping amazing today. Sing, sing, sing it your way. Shop until you drop orders from your favorite shops and sing, sing, sing it your way. With the virtual map in a tab, walk your way to the shops and just sing, sing, sing it your way. Hey. Sing, sing, sing it your way. When you shop on points and rewards, sing, sing, sing it your way. It's an app, make shopping amazing today.
Get exclusive deals and rewards when you download this amazing app. Zing at Ayala Malls.
Come on, sing, sing, sing it your way. When you shop on points and rewards, sing, sing, sing it your way. It's an app, make shopping amazing today.
idea of the SHEeo Society actually came about when I was traveling around the globe, particularly in Europe. My favorite castle of all is the Neuschwanstein Castle, where the Disney castle was inspired from. Each castle, like each chamber, has a salon. And of course, like after that specific life-changing travel, I started studying. I started feeding my mind or like researching all about the monarchy. And one thing in particular that I was so in love with is, of course, Marie Antoinette. Particularly the movie of Sofia Coppola, so starring Kirsten Dunst, and it's really beautiful. And there's always that room, that specific room, which is the salon. And of course, from that grew my excitement towards salons. I created and I sculpted a space that looks like a salon where you can just, have coffee, have tea, or have wine or sangria or whatever cocktail that you want. And you just being yourself and your most authentic self, and everyone's just really welcoming you. That's the inspiration behind the SHEeo Society. The SHEeo Society is actually a modern salon and club for women entrepreneurs. So basically, we're built on 3 pillars here. That is a community, a platform, and a support system for success. So what we're looking for are passionate, mindful, authentic SHEeos all over the globe. And the idea is to keep launching them and support them as they venture towards their successes. So it's all about women empowerment, but really focusing more on economic success. So what we want is for you to launch your own business based on your most authentic essence. A SHEeo is effortless, sophisticated, confident, and empowered. So when we talk about the SHEeo, she's very admirable. And when I say she's well-traveled, she's seen the world, applying every bit of her experiences. And for me, that's what we're looking for. If you're a SHEeo and you fit all these qualities, then you're more than welcome to join our club. Hi everyone, my name is Maine. I am the SHEeo and I'm the Telene, and welcome to the SHEeo Society.
I always had a reason not to. Not to move. Not to take care of myself. Not to care for the future. Until one day, I realized all my reasons not to were just not good enough.
What's your why? Tell us your reason, and we'll help you achieve a healthier, longer, better life for you, for them.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are all keeping healthy and safe. Please never let your guard down so that we can collectively forge ahead and overcome the current surge of cases our country is experiencing right now. Your health and safety are our utmost priority at Ayala Malls, and we ensure that the most rigid safety protocols are practiced. This is all in the spirit of keeping amazing going. Speaking of amazing, welcome to all our viewers. Hi, good afternoon. And for this session is about awakening your inner amazing as we talk about female empowerment and celebrate the fearless spirit of the Filipina. As you know, March is International Women's Month, and as a staunch supporter of women empowerment, Ayala Malls has ongoing women's pop-up stores or a fair featuring fashion and beauty brands from various Ayala Malls partners nationwide with exclusive discounts and special deals. So do check that out in the nearest Ayala Mall near you for some much well-deserved self-care and self-pampering. Flashed on your screens right now, I can see it, are the participating Ayala Malls and the schedule of the pop-up fairs. So you see it there. Also flashed on your screens after will be because Ayala Mall continues to bring innovation and convenience to shoppers with an online catalog that offers exclusive promos redeemable at in-store purchases from participating fashion, self-care, and beauty brands. And also, as a special surprise treat to all of you watching today, to all the femtiles watching today, the Ayala Malls team are actually giving out prizes, very exciting prizes, and giveaways through the randomizer selection process. So if you registered, I hope you registered. We will be later revealing, if not on this webinar, they will be emailing you and we'll be announcing the lucky winners. We will be giving away beauty musts, fashion gift certificates, and so much more. So do stay tuned for that. Anyway, part of this month-long celebration this afternoon, Ayala Malls brings together some Filipina movers and shakers in their respective industries in the hopes of providing inspiration and, of course, insights on how to achieve the perfect balance of juggling professional and your personal life. This is Uplift Conversations with Fearless Filipina Movers. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Philam Vitality, and our partner in this endeavor, the SHEeo Society. The SHEeo Society, as you saw earlier in their video, the vision is to really empower all of us women to establish ourselves through an intentional, mindful, and authentic thought process that allows to build and grow and scale businesses that we can truly call our own through mutual help in among its vast network of female-led businesses across the globe. With us this afternoon is the founder and CEO of the SHEeo Society. She is a designer and entrepreneur who established the TMC Creative Agency, a studio for young collaborators. She also runs a design studio, Atelier Soigné, specializing in premium branding, stylized photography, and content marketing for lifestyle and community first brands. Actually, she's quite a super lady because she has acquired multiple certifications in, name it, fashion design, interior design, fashion product development, fashion and retail management, and the overall brand management of luxury brands. She's also a certified wine connoisseur. Wow, she really does it all. Please welcome Miss Maine Uy. Hi, Maine. Good
And
afternoon.
hi, Jingay. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I'm so honored to be here, to be with Roxanne, to be with you, to be with Jane and Leia and everyone else in the audience who are all empowered. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Yes.
So,
So
Maine, I know that you had a video clip earlier about the vision of SHEeo Society, but maybe you can just expand that a little bit further and tell us more what actually got you going in this project.
definitely. So, first of all, everyone, thank you so much for being here today to celebrate Women's Month for the whole month of March. So it's actually a whole month of celebration. And indeed, we all are movers and shakers here. We have come a long way. And I thank also Ayala Malls and Philam Life for sculpting this beautiful space right here for us to exchange our thoughts, our experiences, all to empower each other. And it is what we've been doing in the club for a year here, and I'm really happy that we get to share this with you because not long ago, women like us didn't have a safe space like this to speak up. And now we are giving you a choice to either elevate or to remain where you are. And the keyword today is actually fearless. And it has been thrown around multiple times. There's a lot of definitions to it. There's resilience, tibay ng loob, lakas ng loob. We all have different definitions to fearless. But for me, it was recently that I added one more definition to the term fearless, and that is speaking your truth. And here at the SHEeo Society, we're all about authenticity, and it's very important for me for you to discover yourself and for you to be able to stand your ground and speak your truth. Because even with me, I'm a very extroverted person. I'm a very outspoken person, but at the same time, there are times that I struggled. I fear speaking up because all of us, in some way, it was embedded in my DNA to be resilient. Like, it's a truly Filipina DNA. And yun nga, like words like kakayanin, tago ko na lang, sa akin na lang to, kaya ko naman. All the more that we keep it in, we realize that the burden gets heavy. And that's why it's important to have a support system. That support system that would push you further, that would encourage you to go out of your way to, you know what, just take a risk and we'll do with it afterwards. Having that strong support system would actually push you further to become fearless. And, just to share also, it was not long ago when one of the things that I feared the most was actually fell upon me. In that moment, it actually questioned, am I still doing the right thing with the SHEeo Society? It made me doubt myself because, for someone who is hiding herself like me, the first time that I came out again to become the face of face of the SHEeo Society for the SHEEOs, hearing those other feedbacks from those around me, it really made me question. But today, it's not about that. Instead, I'm telling you how I mustered the courage to stand my ground and speak my truth. Because during that moment, Jengay, I looked at my mom. She's here right now. I looked at my mom and I saw what? This is a strong woman who nurtured me, who went far and beyond to raise me. And then I also looked at my little sister, my Shobe. She's a constant supporter. She's always everywhere here in my events and all of that. And then I looked at my nanay who always asked me, anak, kumain ka na ba? And my amas, who has a different way of empowering me through my angpaos and my random Chinese cravings. They would just give it to me. And then my aunties who's on the background, my friends, my mentors, and of course the SHEEOs. And then I looked at myself. And then I saw the bigger picture. You know what? Why would I stop? Why would I fear speaking up when there are those around us who have not been empowered at all? What about those who are remaining in the dark, who's fearing of the consequences, who's fearing of the uncertainties of being able to stand their ground and speak their truth? And then I realized, you know what, I have to speak my truth because how could I ensure that the club I'm creating will be safe? How could I ensure that the future that we're gonna be living in years from now would be safe? So today, for everyone watching, I hope you get some key takeaways because all of the conversations here are intentionally created, just as how we do it in the club. Everything is intentionally created for you, and we try to come up with it like a conversation talaga because we want you to experience it, what it's like to be a SHEeo, to lower their hair down, and just come from within, just come from your honest and true and highest self. Because after today, we are confident that we're manifesting and affirming that you would be fearless, that you would finally woman up, have a fresh start, and awaken the amazing woman within. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maine. I think it's actually very true, especially during the pandemic when we've never felt more isolated than ever. A support group, whether it's family or a club as SHEeo Society, it actually provides that comfort. Maybe not even empowerment, just that mere comfort of being around like-minded people where you are understood and not judged. I think thank you very much for putting together that club so that women, actually sort of find a solid, a sanctuary or a purpose, a place of solace where they can just be themselves. Anyway, to our audience, we will have time for a panel discussion later on with all our speakers. We have quite a number of them. So please do, at this point, I remind you to please type in your questions in the Q&A section somewhere there, and we will ask them to our panelists later on in the program. Thank you very much, Maine. Anyway, moving on. Our first speaker is a brand and marketing strategist who is an expert in innovative brand differentiation and brand experiences. Her systematic approach and creative flair, combined with cutting edge thinking, have really allowed her to successfully develop integrated campaigns for beloved brands that she's handled, such as Moet Hennessy to Crate and Barrel. With 15 years of experience in the field, she helps brands to be effective storytellers and marketers through her company Beyond Beauty Global. To give us a guide on how to be fearless and fearless, uh, please joining us from Hong Kong. Please welcome Miss Jane D. Good afternoon, Jane.
Jingai, thank you for that. Hi everyone. I look forward to like hearing your questions later. But yes, hi, hello.
I'm loving the color. It's so feminine yet strong. And of course, the hair is so chic and stylish. Huh?
Thank you, thank you. Okay, I'll
Even
start.
cutting the hair. For some
Yeah,
women, cutting hair is already a fear. So
I've
maybe if
always,
you
I've always had,
on,
I've always had. I
you
do
might as
long hair though, and you carry it perfectly.
well, thank you. So go ahead. Please proceed, Jane.
Okay, I'll share my screen. Hold on a second. There you go. Hi, everyone. I'm Jane, and I'm so happy to be here. First off, I want to thank Ayala Malls, of course, and Maine of the SHEeo Society to give me this opportunity to share my experience on how to be fearless and to fearless. Before I start, I'm just going to do a really quick introduction of myself. So my name is Jane D, and I'm a brand specialist and marketing strategist. What that basically means is I help brands and companies find the right marketing tools to create the best brand awareness and brand experiences for their consumer. I try to help them be effective storytellers using traditional and digital media platforms and immersive technology and social media engagements. Some of the brands I've worked with previously are Moet Hennessy, Pernod Ricard, and Crate and Barrel. So Moet Hennessy is under the LVMH umbrella. So LVMH is Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy. And under the brands that they have are Moet Chandon, Dom Perignon, Veuve Clicquot, and what I handled for Asia Pacific was Belvedere Vodka. Pernod Ricard takes care of Chivas Regal, Martell, Royal Salute, Jacob's Creek, Mum Champagne, Perrier Champagne. So mostly the past 10 years, it was, when I was working with them, it was mostly in the wines and spirits industry. I also had the opportunity to work with Crate and Barrel in the Philippines, one of my favorite brands. And as you all know, it's a high-end home furniture company globally. Right now, I'm based in Hong Kong. I take care. I am the co-founder and CMO of Beyond Beauty Global, and it's a boutique consultancy agency that takes care of lifestyle and wellness business markets. Basically, what we're currently focused on is health, wellness, and beauty, which is very relevant, especially with what is going on right now. How we do that to the brands is through our brand DNA, and we highlight sophistication, innovation, and authenticity. So in other words, we try to put a little bit of elegance in all the marketing activities or innovation that we handle. And innovation is more like what is new, what is relevant in the market, and what can be applied at present. And of course, authenticity. We always have to keep it real. So before I start, I want to have a conversation and engagement with the audience as well. So if you can write one person that you know who is fearless, please type them on the comments below. We'll get back to it later. And then please also tell us why. I'll give you a few minutes to do that. And then I'll continue on with my presentation. All right. So one of the things that I want you guys to think is that just because someone is fearless or brave or courageous doesn't mean we are not afraid. I, for one, am always afraid. I'm always scared about doing things. It's just, we find ways to manage it differently. So I'm going to share with you 10 tips on how I try to be fearless and to fear less. I know it's easier said than done, but I really do hope these tips would help you move forward despite your fear. So first of all, you need to know and respect fear. That fear is part of our lives. Like it's hardwired into our system. It's not going to go away. But it should not stop you from doing things. It should not stop you from doing productive things. Like fear is there to fear is there to warn and protect, but not to scare and prevent. So you should look at it not as an enemy, but also an ally that guides you through high stakes situations. Second, you need to understand how fear affects your life. So for me, like when panic hits me or when I'm scared of something, I start overthinking a lot. And when you think too much, it 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 really over exaggerate, like your thoughts really over exaggerate, and it makes things bigger than they actually are. So this way I can determine, like I try to stop myself obviously, but sometimes it just goes on and on. But because I know and understand how it affects me, I can then determine the degree of impact fear can have in my life. Therefore, you need to practice self-awareness, meaning you need to know yourself quite well to see what scares you, and not just what scares you, but why it scares you. I've broken it down to three pillars. One is biology, one is past experience, and one is forecasting. Basically, like biology is what is genetically what makes you scared, right? Like I'm genetically prone and I'm very, very afraid of flying cockroaches. Example, I'm scared of insects. I'm scared of bees. The other day when I was like doing this presentation, I was speaking to my brothers about it. Like there was a bee that came into my apartment and I didn't know what to do while typing how to be fearless, which is very ironic. But, like insects are something that freaks me out. The second thing that how you have fear or how it generates fear is because it's been learned and conditioned. So when someone had a car accident, for example, or when someone had a car accident, they might be afraid to drive again. When someone had a traumatic breakup, they might be so scared to go into another relationship. So that's past experiences, and you need to find a way to how to move forward with that type of fear. Last is forecasting. By that, I mean forecasting the future. When you think way too much of what might happen, you will not do anything about it because you're like, if I do this, this might happen to my life, and I don't want another like bad scenario, or I don't want this situation. So it will definitely hold you back and stop you from moving forward. So how then do you manage fear or overcome it? So how then do I manage my fear? So first of all, you really need to build self-confidence. And the more confident you are in your ability to handle what scares you, the more secure you feel. And how do I do that? Like self-confidence is the biggest antidote to fear. And how I do that are three things as of this moment. Is I try to acquire new knowledge, I try to master a new skill, and I gain new experiences. So it's so easy right now because we do have the time and also the resources to acquire new knowledge and or master a new skill. It's online courses are so prevalent these days. You can utilize it in at home with Wi-Fi and all that. And also mastering a new skill. I'm seeing a lot of my friends perfect their cooking, they're baking lots of goods, their flower making arrangements are on top of their game. So I think it's something that it makes you feel good about yourself, hence you become more productive. And for me, one of the most important thing as well is gaining new experiences. what I'm doing right now with you guys, when I'm speaking here, that's a new experience for me. I've always been so scared of doing public speaking, especially in front of a live audience. But right now, Indeed is a lot easier because we're in a virtual platform. But gaining new experiences such as this is helping me build my own self-confidence. Another way that I gain new experience is talking to different types of people, or talking to mentors, or talking to people that I respect, especially with business. I try to ask for their advice, how they're navigating this new normal, what they're doing with their time, how they're managing, their mental health and also their emotional health. And so for that, the more facts I gain, the more lessons that I hear from them, the more it enriches me and makes me less afraid. Next, I always try to over prepare and not overreact. I mean, this is a little bit difficult because it borders on my control freak side. Like I'm a little bit paranoid most of the time, but I do try to have a backup plan in my plan. I'm trying, because these days you cannot not plan. And even if you need to plan something that has to change next week, there always has to be a routine of what you need to follow. And do not overreact to certain things. And I know it's so hard these days, with Philippines, especially with what is going on in our country. In Hong Kong, everyone is kind of scared about vaccines. And I know in the Philippines, the cases are surging again. But try to understand more of the information that is given to you, and try to over prepare and gather as much facts, not fake news, facts, to be able to learn and to feel less scared. Next is you need to assess the risk and take action. So basically, what determines the outcome of your life are the actions you take or do not take. Okay, let me repeat this again. What determines the outcome of your life right now? The outcome, it could be next week, next month, next year, are the actions you take and do not take. So you need to understand that even there is fear in your life, you need to move forward. You need to find a way to move forward, because if you don't do anything now, in 6 months' time, nothing is going to happen in your life. Nothing exciting, nothing new. You need to find a way on how to move forward despite your fear. And even if it's scary and you're scared, you need to find a way to strategize. And I like that word, because basically strategy is just thinking of different avenues on how to take action. And when you sit down and think about it and put it forward, then all you need to do is act on it. So there's no fear involved. You also need to know what risks to take and what risks you need to avoid. Because honestly, like fearless or brave or courageous people also know when it's time to move forward or when it's time to pull back. I know I'm talking about a lot of these things, but at the same time, like if you take a step back and fear really grapples you and like every day you're trying to wrestle with it, you need to also know when to ask for help. A lot of the things I'm slowly realizing as well. Like I used to be very extremely independent. I want to do things on my own. I felt like asking for help was a sign of weakness. But asking for help is extremely important, especially if you need like professional help. So fear can give you like massive anxiety attacks, can give you panic attacks that sometimes you won't be able to do daily activities. So when that time comes, you really not have to be ashamed, or you shouldn't be embarrassed to ask for help. Because fearless people know when to seek help to avoid physical discomfort, emotional stress, and future mental turmoil. This is my favorite in the last year and a half, is developing authentic relationships and showing appreciation. I felt like because of COVID and all these uncertainties, daily uncertainties happening in our lives, having a really good trusted support group. I have my family back in the Philippines, which I talk to quite often. My brothers, I talk to them all the time. And I have a trusted group of friends in Hong Kong that I ask for advice as well. When panic hits me, sometimes I take a breather for 5 minutes and just, try and sit still. And the next thing I do is like I pick up my phone and like I call my friends. And this is so important because knowing that you're not alone in your situation can help alleviate fear. Another thing is when you have received the help from your friends or from your family, please reciprocate and show appreciation, because honestly, it's so important for them to know that they've helped you. What goes around comes around. 9, another thing that I prioritized and put so much importance to last year was strengthening myself. I take care of myself quite a lot. Like I prioritize self-love and self-care before anything else, because you won't be able to tackle challenges, you won't be able to tackle problems, you won't be able to find solutions if you're sick. And I'm talking about when you're sick or you're ill, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So how I try to strengthen myself every day is I wake up at about 6 a.m. and I start with a morning devotion and meditation. And this gives me some time to be quiet, to think about what I'm going to do for my business, what I'm doing the entire week, and it just gives me time for myself. And this strengthens my spiritual health and my emotional health. After that, I change my music. It becomes a bit more pumped up, becomes a bit more alive, and then I go for my morning run and I do my outdoor exercises. And this obviously caters to developing mental and physical strength. Because after doing that, and that takes at about 2-3 hours, depending on how long you want to give to yourself, you'll feel very good, and you'll have the confidence to say, okay, whatever is next, I can tackle, I can problem solve, and it's very, very important that you have to take care of yourself. Obviously, last but not the least, this fearless journey is something that you should do continuously, unceasingly. But it is a journey. So you always need to be very, very kind on yourself. You have to look back, you have to learn, don't forget to smile, and then repeat, the routine. But if you do this every day, as long as you do your best every day, I think right now it's very important. But as long as you do your best every day, it's okay. Don't be too hard on yourself. Be very kind, while talking to your own self, because like it's how it is right now, right? Like to have a better of yourself every day is better than what you used to do before. So if you do those small steps every day, it will definitely add up. So in a year's time, you're 365 days better than when you first began. So yeah, I hope that helps a little bit, guys. Don't hesitate to ask questions on the chat, on the comment section. And if you have anything, please, talk to me about it. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jane. That was very helpful and very well outlined because they were very specific and measurable. Actually, Jane, you said that you have a fear of public speaking. I would have never guessed that existed with how you just delivered that.
Well, right now I feel like I'm just talking to you, so it's okay.
So yes, we're all ladies, we're all girls here anyway.
Yes.
Something that's really striking is that you mentioned at the very onset of your presentation was that you have to actually have I wouldn't say healthy, but a good outlook in terms of acknowledging fear. Because, like they say, the first step to fixing any problem is acknowledging that you have one, right? So, I mean, it's funny that you have a fear of cockroaches and bees, but how about for women who have debilitating fears that they just seem to be very paralyzed? Because you said don't overanalyze it, but sometimes it just manifests physiologically. Any tips that you can give aside from the rest that you showed in your presentation?
I think if it's a psychological thing, right, as what I mentioned, if it's a first thing, like you need to understand what scares you and why, right? Like you have to understand the why, because if it's a psychological thing, you have to go back and be like, let's just say it's a fear of public speaking. Let's just say that. It's maybe because, previously you were up on stage and there was stage fright, right? Let's just say something like that. So what I usually do is, honestly, even before this speaking engagement, I always prepare for about a week. And I know some people think that's like over preparing, but for me, like a week is a good time because there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of practicing. So by the time it reaches the now, which is when I'm talking to you, it will sound more natural because then it's already in my head. I kind of know how to talk to you, and I kind of know how to like navigate the conversation. But I think it really just depends on what scares women. So for me, like I'm very scared of, obviously, like, insects. I used to be very scared of, uh, example, talking to my bosses in the executive management team when I was in corporate. That was scary, because like whenever I tried to give my presentation, I wasn't sure if they're interested or they were trying to just like talk down on me. But what I realized is like when I was prepared, and once again, preparation is key, like over preparing. Whenever I was prepared and I was well read and ready, like I do know that they do respect my opinion. So I really do think like preparation is just key to everything. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's always better to be over prepared. It's
Yeah.
always the cardinal rule anyway. Let's
Correct.
talk a little bit about building confidence. And I
Yeah.
actually gathered this from your talk wherein you deflect or you put your energies into something else rather than wallowing in the fear by
Correct.
mastering a new skill. Like you
Correct.
said, it's a fact we have access to language lessons or cooking
Correct.
lessons and all that. So, what are some activities you do when you are also encumbered by a little bit of fear?
Oh, okay. So I have different apps that I listen to. So I was born a Christian, like I came from a Christian family. So one of the things that whenever fear hits, like I have this app called Abide that I listen to that gives out, like really good Christian messages, Christian values to help me alleviate my fear. There's also another app that I listen to, which is Rick Warren's app, and it's very great because like it's straightforward advice and very relevant in this present day on how to take care or how to find ways to not be overcome by fear. So once I listen to that, then mentally and emotionally you're better. That means I can get up and go for a run or do a walk. And when I can do that, then that means I can work. So there's definitely different steps on how I manage it. So my mental and emotional health has to be very, very strong before I can do my physical work.
So, faith actually
Yes,
also,
yep.
faith and
Very
outlook really
important.
have such big impact in your conquering your fear. You mentioned also, which is I think very essential and the one that's most available to a lot of us is support. A
Yes,
support system. You talk to your family, to your friends, to your Viber communities.
yes.
When you're really distraught or really experiencing a lot of difficulties, this is the easiest way. You have to share so that it can be released, correct, Jane?
Um, I come from the Philippines. Like we're all Filipino. We're very, very social creatures, and our family values are very strong. So to have this group and to be able, first of all, you need to find people that you can be honest and vulnerable to, because if you can't do that, then whatever that comes out of your mouth, I mean, it doesn't really help, because if you're not honest, like they cannot help you back, right? But honestly, like if that if I have a panic attack or I have fear, and you just start talking to someone and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going through something else, and the conversation is going when it's quite authentic, you'll know you're not alone. And we have family and we have friends that do care about us, especially in this situation during the pandemic. Everyone is going through their own journey, so being able to share advice and also listen to what everyone is going through will help definitely alleviate your fear.
So even if you're there living alone in your apartment in Hong Kong, for people who are living alone, you are never alone. So
I am never
do
alone.
seek, yeah, do seek out help, do call a friend. because
don't be shy.
those little
Yeah.
yes, don't be shy because these little things, these little connections are actually very easy solutions to, you know, put those fears at bay.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Jane, for questions. Actually, Jane will be with us until the end of the program. So please don't leave, Jane. I'll just park you there. If you have any questions for Jane, she will be back later on in the panel discussion. But at this point, I will be introducing our next guest speaker. Thank you, Jane. So we'll see you later.
Okay,
Our
bye.
next guest is the force behind the famous retail homegrown fashion brand, and I'm sure you've heard of this, Plains and Prints. She is the central figure in the brand's product and design development. She actually meticulously handles each and every sketch of that company, as well as she is the visionary behind the brand's marketing prowess. This is aside from her several forays in entrepreneurship in food with Ramen Nagi, for instance, with beauty. She also is part of the Happy Skin and BLK group. And quite recently, and I just tried it, it was actually very, very comfortable. I loved it. The fitness apparel brand Rissa. She actually works with her husband. So this discussion will take a different texture from Jane's because she and her husband Erickson actually work together. They are the perfect tandem in life and in work as they raise beautiful kids and booming businesses simultaneously. So how does she do it? How indeed to talk about discovering your passion and your purpose. Please welcome my good friend. Hi there, Roxanne Ang-Farillas. Good
Hi,
afternoon,
Jingai.
Roxanne.
Hi, good afternoon and good afternoon to everyone watching. Thanks for having me. I'm so honored to be here together with other fearless women, very strong women. And thank you, Ayala, for having me.
You really are such a very achieved woman. I mean, for people who don't know, Plains and Prints celebrated their 25th anniversary, I think a year or two ago.
Yes.
And there was a grand celebration for it. But Roxanne, let me take you a little bit back to when you started. Did you muster the strength or the vision to actually begin this business?
Yeah, funny when I'm thinking really about it. It all started in when I was a junior high. So my English teacher at that time actually asked us to write an essay. The topic was, how do you see yourself in 10 years? You know, that time I was in junior high. I was going to my applications for college. In my mind, I just really wanted to do business because my mom said, you know, that we're in the business, we're doing business. So my mom said, why don't you just go into business? I didn't have really any plans. So for some reason, I just wrote in that essay, I see myself having my own retail women's apparel store in Green Hills. Specifically, I said Green Hills that time. I don't know why. So that was in 1990, if I remember correctly. And true enough, I was so blessed. In less than 5 years, in 1994, we opened our first Plains and Prints store in Shopsville Plus in Green Hills. It's an 11 square meter area. In November 1994. You know, we were at the right place at the right time. I was just in college that time. I was in my third year college, going to my thesis, doing my thesis. And yeah, we had to grab that opportunity. Erickson and I opened that store. It was really a gamble. It was very difficult, you know, for a 20-year-old who didn't have any background and experience with fashion, designing, or marketing for that matter, because I'm actually a finance graduate. So, you know, it's very far from what I'm doing now. Erickson is in charge of operations, more on the finance side, and I'm handling all the creative side of the business, from designing, as what you mentioned, merchandising, marketing, sales, visual merchandising, and e-com, both for inline and online. So, you know, it's totally different from finance. So yeah, it was very difficult for me to, you know, juggle between work and studying that time. So, but we really had to grab that opportunity because Jinga is sayang, we were at the right place at the right time.
So there's a bit of luck in there, but certainly it wasn't just that. What were the key characteristics you had in yourself, Roxanne, that actually encouraged you that this is a good opportunity, that I should seize the day? what did you think were the very important values you possessed?
Um, you know, even if when I was a young Jingay, I would sell pencils, ball pens, stickers, whatever you can think of to my classmates now. I remember during graduation, instead of focusing on graduation ceremony, the practices that we all look forward to, grad practices, right? But instead of just doing the grad practices, I was selling jackets to my classmates. Selling my aunt, when I went to college, I was studying. I enjoyed going to college and meeting friends, but I also did some businesses. I mean, I did some towels. I made some blouses that I went around. I have a big duffel bag that I go around different classes. Tapos by the end of the day, it's sold out na. So, at first it was just something that I love doing. One of the things that I think that's a characteristic of my personality is I'm very determined. Yeah, not just creative. I think because I work with a very good creative team. I think where we are now, it's also thankful for my team. It's just that I have a vision, and I love what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. I think that's very very important because up to now I've been doing this for 26 years now. We celebrated in 2019 our 25th year, but there's every day it didn't really feel like work for me. It's something that I love doing. I enjoy doing. I love working with my team. It's every day that I go to work. I meet with them. It's something challenging. It's something that there's some problems, but it brings out the best in me, the challenges, and it doesn't really feel like work. So I think that's something that's very important that gives me the passion to do what I'm doing right now.
Well, passion really is very important because like you said in so many words that if you love something, you do something you love, you don't really work a day in your life. But you also mentioned, Roxanne, there were difficulties. And maybe you can share with our viewers because there's a lot of comments lauding your success and they're being very generous of their comments of you being so inspiring and encouraging. So, what were some of your biggest hurdles and how did you manage to overcome them?
It's been a very difficult journey for me, to be honest. When we started getting that space, balancing work and studying at that time was very difficult. Penetrating the mainstream, doing advertising was very very challenging for us as well. When we started in 1994, we never did any advertising. Then one day in 2002, we decided, Erickson and I decided that, it's now or never if we don't make sugal now, if we don't really gamble and get an endorser. So we got Gretchen Barreto back in 2002, if people could remember. She's our first endorser. So, we had to gamble with that. It's we had to make sure that we get the right endorser, so it was very difficult for us, but it paved the way for us to get into franchising and all the opportunities that came along. But it was very hard. I mean, the retail industry is very very competitive. After a few years, the international brands came in. All the international brands came in, and the local retailers were really having a difficult time. All of us were really having a difficult time. It was very difficult for us, but I told my team that we stick to our strengths. We focus on what we do. Plains and Prints is really focused on making prints. All our prints are original. I have a design team, a creative team, and I have a graphic design team who really makes the prints for us. So instead of adjusting and competing head on with international brands that came in, we focused on what we do best. But it was really very, very challenging year for us. Years, I would say, not just years. That's why we had to keep ourselves relevant and think of different ways to actually compete with the international brands. We had collaborations. We've been doing collaborations since 2008. And of course, when the e-commerce business came in also, we had to also compete with the other e-commerce players and the e-commerce, the different businesses that just sells in e-com. It's difficult. It's never been an easy journey for us. Even the trust. I mean, it's let's be honest. I mean, I'm very thankful for the people who stood by us and believed in us. But, it's very challenging because all throughout the years, there's some challenges that we had to prove ourselves and make sure that, Plains and Prince is a good brand. So, it's not just about marketing, but also the trust of our suppliers as well.
Well, it's also, you're one of the very few local retail giants around. So we're really rooting for you because, we have to patronize our own, aside from the fact that,
Thank
of
you.
course, the products have to speak for themselves. Now, I'm interested, actually, this is just to disclose to the audience, Roxanne and I are very good friends. I'm very good friends with her husband, also Erickson. And the one thing, or the first thing I noticed when I started becoming very friendly and actually working with Roxanne and Erickson was the incredible dynamic between this couple, because they actually work so well together. I mean, that doesn't go for a lot of couples. You end up butting heads or having different opinions, and then you bring it to the home. So Roxanne, give us a little bit of nugget of wisdom there on how to be able to balance that.
It's not easy, Jingay. We've been in the business for 26 years. Erickson and I have been married for 22 years, going 23 years this year. It's very difficult, but when we started, we always fight. I mean, then we bring it home. But our offices are right beside one another. We used to have just one office and two tables in one. Then we decided we needed that space. So we have two rooms already. He has his room, I have my room. No matter how small the office, we moved 3 times already. And we had to make sure that every time we move, we have to make sure that we are far apart so that, we have that space. It was very hard at first when we go home. We talk about business and we fight a little. Then we realized that, when we get home, we have to draw the line and make sure that, when the argument gets more intense now, we have to stop, especially with the kids around. But definitely we argue. I think arguing is very healthy, I would say, because even for my team, I always tell them, you just don't agree with me. You have to tell me what you have in your mind. It's for us to be successful, not just with Erickson and me, even for my team. I always tell them to, voice out, recommend, because it's not just going to be me dictating. It's always a team effort for us to succeed. So yeah, I listen. It was hard for me to listen to Erickson at first because I was thinking, I run the house, the home, I with the household and everything. But I have to leave. I have to respect his field, which is the operations side. And whatever operations dictate, I listen. The same way, whatever I need, he needs to respect that and he needs to listen. So I think it's just really practicing it, and over the years, really just drawing the line and understanding each other's responsibilities and having that respect for one another.
Well, let's add the dimension of children, because I know that you have 3 kids. They're quite grown up. The youngest is still in
Yes.
her teenage years. How was that
Yes.
environment or that dynamic of you and Erickson working together and partners in life as well? How did that affect the bringing up of the kids, and what they actually observed from your relationship?
Well, my kids are both business minded, especially my eldest one. Growing up, of course, we can't help it, but during dinner time, we discuss about businesses. So to be honest, they grew up being business minded as well. What's interesting is that they're big enough right now. So when we talk about business and what's going on, especially for the last couple of months, the difficult times, they would listen and they would try to understand and question and ask us about it. And it's a learning, I wouldn't say it's a good learning for them, but I think there's some things that they can't learn from business school that they can learn from us, because we are really just business men. So, I always tell them that, you go to school, you listen, but when you're at home, we're also teaching you some things that the school will never teach you. So growing up, my kids are used to that. And if they have they're into business right now. So if they have any questions, we support them and we help them. And basically that's how it is in our household right now.
So because two of them you said are very into business already,
Yes.
and they are privy to your conversations about business, but if there are a few lessons, maybe one or two or three at most, that you really want to impart to your children, and maybe the benefiting party here are the women watching, what are these values you think they should that you want to impress upon them?
Well, I always tell my kids to be hardworking, of course, to be patient, and of course to always pray. That's, I think, it's very important. But more than that, I always tell them there's always three reasons why you should go into business. First is, if you go into business because you want to survive, you want to have a you want to pay the bills, you have to want money to buy the things that you love. You want just to survive. Then when you're already surviving, you want to be, of course, successful in what you're doing. It's not just something that, it's a business that you go into that you just earn and that's it. You have to be happy, and you have, of course, eventually you want to be successful and excel in what you're doing. And when you're already successful in what you're doing and you're happy, of course, with what you're doing, the most important thing that I always tell them is, don't forget to be an inspiration to the other people. I think that's the most important, and that's the most difficult thing that you can ever do when you go to business, is to always remember to inspire and mentor other people. Because success is not just, it's not enough. You have to also inspire and mentor other people, so that it's a whole thing that you have to go into business that will really make you happy.
So it actually goes back to the topic of your particular segment, which explores passion and purpose. So ultimately, the purpose really is to be able to give back.
Yes, yeah, I think so. Yes, definitely not. I think so. Sorry, it's really giving back. This is actually, thank you for having me right now, because I would really want to inspire and just share my journey with the women here, and just to give light how passion really is very, very important in what you're doing.
Well, that's part of your philanthropic activities, that you are able to empower women and broaden their horizon. But if you were to go back to talk to yourself, to your junior high self, Roxanne, and give her an advice, knowing what you know now, what will you tell your younger self?
You know what? People ask me that if I had a chance to really go back and change some things, or tell myself if I can really go back a few years ago, I wouldn't even, to be honest, I've done many mistakes, Jingay. But all those mistakes, I think, made me a better person, made me a stronger person, and I learned from those mistakes. Yes, there are some that if I can really look back, I would change, but, well, to be honest, maybe not anymore.
Maybe a hairstyle.
Yeah, those some things are fashion that I shouldn't have worn that before. But in terms of my mistakes, I wish there are some. But when you really look back, it really makes you a stronger person. So I would say that all those mistakes, all those failures that I did, actually helped me to be a better person and to be a stronger person. Given that I don't have any background, I don't have any background in fashion designing or marketing, but I learned everything. I love working with different people, because, as I mentioned, I learn from them, they learn from me. So it's always a two-way communication. So I think it's very important that along the way your journey is to also listen, to be a good listener. Even if you accomplished a lot, it would really be important to learn. It's a never-ending process of learning and development. I always tell my team every day to be honest with me, to share your insights, to share your views, and it's a never-ending process for me to learn and to adapt. Especially given the last few months, we've adapted. We needed to adapt to survive. So so it's really more on learning. It's very important to listen and to learn.
Well, I'm sure your team, they're very inspired by having a female leader as determined as you. But Roxanne, of course, there are many facets to you. You also enjoy doing a lot of things to unwind. Maybe you can share some of your other passions or hobbies that keep you sane when the going does get tough.
I just to release stress, I enjoy happy hour. So when just a drink of wine, just to relax. I also exercise because for me, I love exercising in the morning, just like Jane. Because for me, it gives me that energy and makes me focus. Because I didn't. I always believed before that I didn't have time. I didn't have time for myself. I didn't have time to exercise. I start my day early. I work and I end late. But there was a time a few years ago that I realized that I needed time for myself also because I can't actually lead people if I'm too tired. So for me, working out in the morning is something that I love doing. It completes my day. It gives me that energy, and well, works for me because I'm doing recess right now. So I can relate to the product. I love the product, so it's very easy for me to run the business because I love activewear, just like Plains and Prince, because it's very close to my heart ever since, dressing up, looking to fashion.
Okay, there are a lot of questions. I see it in the chat, but please, let's just keep it pouring, your questions, because Roxanne, I will ask back later. Roxanne, don't leave just yet. We will have you later on in the panel discussion. That was a very inspiring chat. That was a very
Thank you.
great illustration of how a dream can become reality with the right values and the right circumstances. Thank you, Roxanne. So I'll see you a bit
Thank
later.
you. Thank you,
Okay,
Jingay.
thank you, Roxanne. Before I introduce our next speaker, at any time during the program, we do encourage you. We are gathering the questions for all our speakers, so please do type them in the Q&A button down there or the chat, and we will ask our panelists later on. Our next guest, moving on, is the COO of Field Tech Specialist Inc., an outsourcing company specializing in the utility industry. At the onset of the pandemic, she founded and launched Wellsmith, an online shop to source all things pretty and healthy. And her story is quite personal, actually. And her main mission is to nourish by design. She embodies this mantra by thoughtfully curating her products that aim to help kickstart a healthy lifestyle by simply adding a little bit more fun and pretty to your pantry. Please welcome to talk about launching an intentional brand amidst a pandemic, because yes, she did launch this at the middle of all these chaos. Please welcome Miss Leia Cruz. Good afternoon, Leia.
Hi, Jingay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to everyone in this call.
So we're looking forward to your personal experience of you sharing with us your revelations about yourself, or the things that you realized about yourself. So please go on, and you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Jingay. Okay, so hi everybody. Thank you so much for being here. There are about 100 of us in this call, so thank you so much. I'd also like to thank the Ayala Malls and of course Main of the SHEeo Society for inviting me. It's such an honor to be with such powerful and fearless CEOs. So today we're going to talk about my fearless journey and how I intentionally launched this pandemic baby. So yes, like what Jingay said earlier, we're your source for all things healthy and pretty. So we have superfoods like adlai and chia seeds, but we also have products from brands like Papaya Tree Farms and Oatly. So our mission in Wellsmith is to really make wholesome goodness accessible and simple, and in that way, we're able to encourage a lifestyle that is both mindful and sustainable. So here we move on to the Wellsmith story and how, what really led me to starting it. Because as Jingay said, it is a personal journey. So let me take you back to actually March of last year. It's been a year, so summer of 2020. Um, Before the government announced a national lockdown, I was actually on self quarantine. I was on self quarantine because a close friend of mine got infected, and it was such a scary time, and it was just such an the anxiety was there, and it was so confusing because we had information. There were fake news, and we were feeded with so much information. But there, so for 2 weeks, I just stayed at home. But of course, your first response would be to buy things such as vitamins, right? To nourish your body, or like um to just really boost your immune system, right? But the challenge was we had none because of the rumors about, supermarkets closing down, or, stores closing down. And, we all had that fear, right? I didn't have that. Like, I had no access to vitamins or even masks. We had no masks that time. And even the baking aisle of the supermarket, they were out of stock because, people were panic buying. So what really happened was that I had to go back to basics. I had to sleep well, I had to eat well, and I had to move well. This was difficult for me because before sleeping was, somehow a luxury for me. I felt like um, I was not working hard if I didn't sleep enough. I I used to function like, I sleep and function with just 3 hours of sleep. And I also had to eat well, and, not just pick the right kind of food, and not just, a way to satisfy my cravings or my palate, but use it as a fuel to nourish my body. And lastly, I had to work out. And and not because of vanity. I didn't work out because I wanted to get abs, or I, get ready for the beach, but or punish myself for eating that slice of pizza. But I really worked out because, again, it was something I Googled, and it would boost my immune system. So fast forward 2 weeks after, I got cleared. It was nothing. But within those 2 weeks, I of just really respecting my body and honoring my body, I felt better. And for years I was struggling with my weight. But because I was so intentional about treating my body well, the pounds dropped. And what I realized is that I was always so obsessed with getting the output fast. And why bother with doing the hard work when there's a product for that, right? And I did all that, but it really didn't work. It was only when I had grace with myself that I see results. It was not only when I really enjoyed the process and didn't obsess if I was losing weight, or the pounds were dropping, or if the weight was if the scale was moving. And it was not only when I cared, not just if I showed up, but how I showed up. So this, with all this, the pandemic journey, it led me to Wellsmith. And it's not just really about the products anymore because it's already available. There's so many stores selling this, but it's just really, I just wanted it to be a platform. And I also wanted, it to be a friend to everybody, someone who could encourage you to journey with grace and to nourish by design. So before we move on, let's define fear, because it's such a heavy word, right? Whenever I see that word, it's like fear. So let's define it. It's an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain or a threat. So it's valid, right? It's valid for you to feel that. It's okay for you to feel that because it's your body's defense for something new, or something foreign. And now that we've established that, what is fearless? Because it's such a heavy word for me. It's fearless, and we regard people who are successful as fearless. And what really is it, right? I remembered because one of my favorite quick story time. one of my favorite movies is The Princess Diaries. And she has a line where it actually became a meme where she said, "Me, a princess? Shut up." And if you were to talk to me about me having Wellsmith a year ago, siguro I would have told you, "Me starting a business in the middle of the pandemic? Shut up." Or being in this call and um sharing my journey. "Me, a fearless CEO or a speaker? Shut up." God is amazing, and his plans really is, his plans are amazing for you. And whatever I imagined Wellsmith to be or how my journey is, it's just a fraction of what he has planned for me. And it's also the same for you. So now that, we've established that it's okay to be fearless, and it's okay for people to be fearless, and all these successful women or successful people also experience fear. So why are they fearless? Because they're humans, right? They also feel their emotions. It's not like they're robots or something like that. But one of my favorite movie lines, well, actually in the same movie, was that when Mia was supposed to go away for, and she was about to give up the crown, before moving, she saw a letter from her father, and it said, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is more important than fear." So, wow, it's not really, it's not really not feeling fear. It's okay to feel fear, but it's acknowledging that something is more important than fear, right? It's not ignoring it. So you have to define what's more valuable for you. Jane, so it's you have to define that for you, whether it's finally having more time for your family, or is it peace, or is it freedom, or is it being financially free, being more happy. You have to decide on that. And when you have that, you ask me, "Leah, what do I do next?" I know what's valuable to me already. Then you take an act of courage in the direction of your fear. You do it. And you tell me, it can be overwhelming, right? You think fear, becoming courageous is supposed to be like big, it's supposed to be a breakthrough, but it isn't. You being in this call and just really wanting to learn how to be fearless is already a step, and you have to acknowledge that. You have to be proud of yourself for that. And and then after that, after you take that baby step, you take another and another, because fear is not becoming courageous or becoming fearless. It's not something that you arrive at. It's not something that you wake up to and suddenly I'm fearless. I'm let's do this. It's not. It's a muscle that you try to work on each day. It's something that you decide to do. You have, and in the process of being courageous, I'd also like to be upfront and say, I think Ms. Roxanne also talked about it, but you will fail. Let's say it, you will fail, but it's about how you reframe how you see failure, because you have to reframe it in such a way that it's a part of the process. You have to welcome it. And I remember this, my dad went to Rimowa one time, and he asked, because the Rimowa luggages are unique, right? Their design is unique and it's valuable. And then he asked, sabi niya, may kasama ba yung cover? Because how we do it in airports where we toss them around, right? And the guy said, sir, wala po kasi part po yun ng character ng bag. So he said, pag marami po kayong scratches, it means mas marami kayong napuntahan. And I'm like, when I heard that story, parang, wow. So ibig sabihin, pag maraming gasgas yung bag, you've traveled, you're well traveled, right? And if you see that, and if you see mistakes as not something, it's not a flaw, it's not something to be ashamed of, and it's something to be proud of, then you can move on, and then it won't stop you from just taking another step, because then there's a choice, right? You want to be a flawless luggage, and that hasn't been really anywhere, or do you want to be someone who's something that's flawed, pero has been to an adventure? So that's something.
Next, IKEA did a plant experiment. I'm sure some of you are familiar with this, where there were two plants that were exposed with the same amount of sunlight and the same amount of water. But the difference is that for 30 days, the other one was bullied, and then the other one was encouraged. And you see the effect on these, you see the effect of words for plants. You'd have to think, if emotion was a physical thing, or a tangible thing, we would see words have so much power, right? And you'd also have to think for yourself. You'd also have to stop and think, how do you talk to yourself? Do you tell yourself that, Leah, you're not naman fearless. Leah, you can't really start a business. You have to think about how you speak to yourself, because there's power in your words. And knowing this, in the pandemic, but there's so many news, and I was really getting anxious, even up to now, because we're bombarded with so many news. So in the middle of the pandemic, I did a declutter, something sort of like, if I'm the plant and I'm not feeded with the right things, I Marie Kondo'd my social life per se, and I only I removed things that didn't spark joy, and just retained and kept things that sparked joy. And I was able to gain new friends in the middle of social distancing. I gained so many friends, and some of which are attending now. I'm so grateful, things that I'm grateful for the pandemic. And of course, one of the communities I found in the pandemic was the SHEeo Society. And at first, it was just really, they were posting so many things about yourself, and how to really gain confidence, and all these personal things. And then I joined it. So how did it really help me become more fearless? First is it gave me clarity, because before taking the masterclass, I was able to get a call with Maine, and for 30 minutes, before coming in that, I had so many ideas I wanted to do with Wellsmith, but for 30 minutes, she gave me clarity. And oh my gosh, it was so helpful. And she really provided me. Second, it was an inward journey with me. The SHEeo, the society, it places a high value on coming from a place of abundance, because it wasn't coming. Oh, okay. It wasn't coming from a place. It came from a place where we may not have everything, but we have something. So we can learn to cultivate that, and really go ahead and start. And what Maine helped me with was really discover my value, both personally and in business. And when you have that as your foundation, it's so easy when you're stuck in a decision, because you'll always go back to your values. And coming from that, if you look at the brands if you browse through the brands that the SHEeo Society launched, it's not like we're Stepford wives, and just because we're all girls, we it's all pink and glitzy. It's not like that. It's each brand is a reflection of the SHEeo behind them, and the diversity and the beauty in it. It's amazing, because like May talked about, we really value authenticity. And when you're authentic with that, it's just effortless and it's, you're not stuck. Lastly, it gave me a space where I was empowered. When you're starting and you have no idea, where to go or where to start, it's such an encouraging thing to have support. Even before coming to this webinar, I was flooded with messages for "Go Leia, I'm rooting for you," and it's so encouraging, right? If you're starting and if you're starting and you're afraid or really you just don't know where to go, it's so it's empowering to have people, to have girls or people behind you, and there are over 80 SHEeos in the society. So, we're not designed to do things alone. It's really empowering. And lastly, even after the, powerful speakers tonight or this afternoon, if you still feel fear, that's totally okay. It's totally valid. But I just really want to remind you that it's always time for a fresh start. Whether you're starting a new hobby, starting a new job, or a new skill, it's always time for a fresh start. You don't have to wait for next month or next Monday, because you always do that, right? Next year na lang. Or if you feel that there's something you want to do and it's just really in your heart, you have to go do it. And if you're looking for a sign, right, this is it. You have to take that brave step. So that ends my presentation. But I have a little gift for everybody in this call. If you take a photo of this, I just really want to thank you for being fearless today. If you take a photo of this and if you want to order online for Wellsmith, you get to receive a 10% discount. So if you want to connect with us, these are our social media platforms. So thank you so much, Jingay.
Thank you very much, Leia. You better believe when you mentioned that term, me, a princess, and now me, a businesswoman, you better believe it because you are indeed actually the CEO of your own business. So congratulations. And I agree with you. There's a lot of messages in the chat rooting you on. And you shared a very personal tale. It was a very authentic, I would say, a very honest depiction. I could feel your voice shaking. It was such a personal journey, really, for you to discover this in yourself. So, for those who may have been where you were back in March, wherein they're not taking care of themselves, they're not sleeping, they're not eating properly, they're not exercising, whether it's for vanity or not, what would be your advice and how that helped you in being in the right frame of mind in what you're doing right now?
Okay, so what I really thought about all these self-care, right? I thought it was a luxury. I thought it was an added thing, or it was maarte, right? People would say that it's maarte for you to take care of yourself, but it's really not. Just like the two other CEOs who valued self-care, you can't pour from an empty cup, and it's really important that you take care of yourself first.
That is true. Ako muna. Before you can even be a good friend, you can be a good mother, you can be a good business leader, you have to take care of yourself. Thank you very much, Leia. Leia will be with us in the panel discussion later on. So if you have any questions, please do just type them in the Q&A button. Well done. Good job. Great story, Leia. Thank you very much. Okay, our last speaker for this afternoon is without question the embodiment of the modern Filipina spirit. She has sashayed her way from the ramps of the country's and the world's most prestigious designers and brands as a model. She was actually one of the more prolific presidents of the Philippine Models Association of the Philippines. Among its the group's history, As a beauty columnist for Philippine Star and an influential voice in the beauty industry, she took this passion to another level when she launched Happy Skin, one of today's fastest growing and celebrated local beauty brands. Of course, her achievements didn't go unnoticed. She garnered accolades from various organizations for her entrepreneurship, including the Outstanding Entrepreneur Citation from the prestigious Ernst and Young. As a way of giving back, she is also heavily involved in Go Negosyo, inspiring women to become successful entrepreneurs themselves. And actually, if you go to the bookstore, she has a best-selling book entitled Read My Lips. And if that's not enough, the kindness of her heart actually manifests because she has personally sponsored the education of deserving yet financially challenged students. As a beauty expert, an entrepreneur, and a philanthropist, she is also a loving mother and a loving wife and a hands-on mother to her three beautiful kids. Our last speaker, Miss Rissa Manaquil-Trillo. However, Rita was scheduled to be with us today, but due to unforeseen circumstances, unfortunately, she is unable to. We're hoping everything is okay with you, Risa, and your family. We pray for your health always and your families. But she was very kind enough to actually send us her talk via a pre-taped video and message. So if you could just gaze to your screen, please watch this.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Ayala Malls, for having me. I actually love the month of March because it's Women's Month, and I'm super happy to celebrate it with you all. It's great to be a woman today. You know, we play so many roles: wife, mom, daughter, friend, entrepreneur, leader. I play many roles, and I'm sure so do you. The truth is, there's so much women can do. We can really be more than what is expected of us, and our roles definitely go beyond the home. With the help of my parents, I grew up knowing that with a lot of hard work and the right values, I can become whatever I set my mind to be. That's why, even if the entrepreneurial landscape was and still is mostly dominated by men, I never thought twice about becoming a female entrepreneur. I've been privileged to be surrounded by so many amazing women growing up. So I never thought that I would not be able to accomplish something because I was just a woman. If anything, what being a woman in business has taught me is that we need to be supportive of fellow women leaders, achievers, and entrepreneurs. I celebrate and honor other women who have also chosen this path. Why? Because the more women leaders there are in different industries, the more the younger generation of women can see that there is no limit to what they can do. Because they see that those who have come before them actually paved the way. But being a woman in this era can also be difficult. You know, there's this huge pressure for women to be great both at work and at home, to combine that professional success and satisfaction with real commitment to family. And it's unfair because there's so many gender stereotypes. You know, women who put their careers first are typically praised, while those who choose family are regarded as not committed enough or are unprofessional at work. But, you know, as a woman, it's really hard to feel successful at work if you're not successful at home. That's why the right partner is important. You know, being able to achieve more as a woman can be as simple as having the right support system at home. For me, the most important in a partner are two things. One, you share the same values, because this will serve as your compass as a couple, you know, from the little things like how to treat kasambahays or employees, or how to raise children, especially if you have daughters. You know, sharing the same values also gets you through the hardest times, and it makes you stronger as a couple. Second, you have to ask yourself, is this person going to be 100% supportive of your own aspirations? And that doesn't mean just a yes from him that you can do whatever you want or anything you want or get anything you want. You have to ask yourself, does he care about sharing workload at home? Does he care about caring for children? Or will you just get dumped with all the unpaid home labor? You know, these are the things you have to consider. Otherwise, you can move on. Because, I'll tell you why, a woman's career is only as good as the person she marries. We always hear the expression of women breaking the glass ceiling. Well, I recently read an article that said, your glass ceiling is sleeping in bed next to you. So, women actually marry their glass ceilings. And I am super thankful I have a husband who never held me back. I was able to start and run a business while juggling 2 babies, pursuing my MBA, and publishing a book all at the same time. Any success I've achieved is directly related to how much he was willing to be an amazing parent. He supports me to the point that he always makes sure that I have time to accomplish whatever I need to do. All my wins in life, I actually owe to him. And for the work-life balance most people think I have, he is the reason. Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg once said in a commencement speech, the most important career decision you are going to make is whether or not you have a life partner and who that life partner is. Admittedly, the biggest challenge of running your own business or even working is balancing time with family. At first, you'll feel guilty, but you have to remind yourself that it's okay that you are a working woman. Stereotypes have held us back too long. A woman today can be both the bread maker and the breadwinner. You know, growing up, women are often raised to believe that if they learn to cook, do housework, manage a house, it would make her wife material and earn her a good husband and secure her future. But the best way a woman can secure her future is the same way a man does. You dream big, you work hard, and you do what's important to you regardless of what society tells you. Economic independence is what empowers a woman to stand on her own 2 feet and take charge of her future. You really have to be the example you want your children to be. Doing well at work not only contributes to family income, it inspires other women and it sets the best example for little girls. You know, you show them what it means to work hard. You show them what it means to excel. You define excellence and hard work for them. When a woman achieves, celebrate it because it paves the way for others and shapes gender attitudes and career aspirations of what women can and cannot do. Another big challenge entrepreneurs face while running a business is remembering to take time to unplug and rest. More so women who juggle many tasks from work to home. You know, we tend to forget that work at home is also work even if it's unpaid. And because we have this narrative in our culture that if you want a career, you have to work hard. But burnout becomes the big price that we pay for this success. After a year in lockdown, one of the realizations I had is this. Self-care isn't expensive. Neglect is. We live in an era where too many people romanticize overexertion, sleepless nights are placed on a pedestal, and being exhausted is viewed as the new chic. You know, this immense pressure to hustle and excel often makes us feel ashamed to take a break. But are those the things we should really aspire for? I think the fine line between commitment and self-endangerment has become so blurred that so many people are burning out before they even have a chance to excel and do their best at work. When you're constantly giving your all the more you have to be giving your all also to resting too. I admit I was guilty of that, you know, putting my self-worth in productivity and hustle. But the lockdown really showed me that what's really valuable. You have to give yourself permission to rest. If you don't take the time out, no one will give it to you. Resting doesn't mean you're quitting. You deserve to recharge for all the hard work you've done so that you can do more for the next. You know, every time I take a pause and take care of myself and give myself a break, I know I can do more and do better next time. I've also been starting to put value on my time because the longer I work, the more I realize that I want to measure my wealth not in money, but in how much time I have and how much freedom I have to spend that time. You can always make more money, but you can never make more time. So for me, time is my new measure of wealth. And every time I'm tired, it's because I'm not able to say no and set healthy boundaries for myself. You can't say yes to everything all the time. You have to ask yourself, is this worth my time? Is it important enough and really worth my time in person? I don't say yes to anything anymore that doesn't feel like a complete yes to my life. You have to learn to say no. And the rare time you say yes, your yes becomes more powerful and meaningful. Saying yes to self care isn't about the work you lose, it's about the life you gain.
Actually, we also have some questions from the audience that were given submitted ahead of time. And that question is, what is for Rita, what is your advice for the younger female generation who feel like they're stuck? Because Rita spoke a little bit about being burnt out, where they are, or as well as those who feel some societal pressures, which also Risa talked about. So here's Risa's reply.
I know times are different now, and today's generation is under unbelievable pressure to get it all together and to be extraordinary. Social media has been a big influence, but it has also been a big trigger. You have this online culture that bombards you with messages about perfection, and there's this pressure that you have to be a successful artist, entrepreneur, or CEO by the age of 25. And I can imagine the great uncertainty it gives you about your adult future. But today, I want you to remember this. First, being uncertain about your future doesn't mean you're a failure. It means you're human. I was in your shoes too, even during day one of Happy Skin. I had uncertainties about how the business would unfold. But one thing I did not have hesitations about was my passion for it. Second, even if the world is on a pause, your opportunities are not. I know 2020 is the year we would all love to hate. But what makes a bad year anyway? Maybe 2020 or 2021 won't be so terrible if you can look back at it as your most pivotal year. One day the headlines will read that 2020 or 2021 was the year you found your purpose and started something life-changing. Whenever my daughters make a mistake or get into accidents or trip, I always remind them of this. Falling down is an accident, but staying down is a choice. Don't be afraid to start over again because this time you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. If you're feeling any pressure today, embrace it and let it refine you. Let it help you become the greatest version of you. It's these pressures and challenges in life that help us become and grow into something beautiful and valuable. Remember that the toughest stone and the most beautiful stone on earth is the diamond. And do you know how it's produced? It's produced under pressure. And once it's formed, it becomes unbreakable.
All right. So there is another question that was submitted earlier for Risa, which she was so kind enough to address in her video. And that question was, were there any setbacks or challenges that greatly influenced your perspective and character? How did they shape or how did this shape uh, you as a woman today? So Risa? I think we're having, oh, there you go. There you go.
Wow, I've been through a lot, both personally and professionally, and I don't mean to plug, but you can read about it all in my book, Read My Lips, What It Takes to Build a World-Class Homegrown Brand. It shares my journey for happy skin, especially in an era where entrepreneurship today is so glamorized. You know, there are a lot of truths that hardly anyone talks about, the wear and tear of 24/7 work, things you wish you knew from the start, the challenges that test integrity, and you're constantly questioning your life path. This actually makes a great read whether you're about to start your own business, or you're thinking of pivoting to a new career, or you just want to stay in your job and hustle on the side. You can find this book in National Bookstore, but you can also get an e-copy or an e-book on Lazada. It's actually packed with a lot of exclusive interviews like with Fernando Zubel, Manny Pangilinan, Lance Gokongwei, Tessie C. Coson, Ben Chan, and even women like Vicky Bello, Lucy Torres, Heart Evangelista, Catherine Bernardo, and Bianca Gonzalez. So it's perfect for anyone who wants to learn more about business, beauty, and life. And if I look back at all the challenges I went through, the most important decisions in my life tested my courage more than my intelligence. At a time like this, people always talk about optimism. But through uncertain times like this, it's courage that will carry you through. Courage to me is proactive and less passive compared to optimism. It's not the absence of fear. Courage is the willingness to be present and respond in spite of fear. Courage is speaking up and taking action, but it's also knowing when to walk away from something. Courage was by my side during the biggest moments of my life and even until today amidst the pandemic. And courage is like a muscle that you have to exercise and strengthen. Courage is a choice you make, and the more you choose to use it, the stronger that muscle gets.
Okay, so there was another question that was asked and sent to Risa earlier. Are there any day-to-day activities or practices that help her or helps her remain motivated in a highly competitive industry? The beauty industry is very competitive indeed. And how do you overcome indolence or burnout? So to this, Risa had mentioned. Risa?
At a time like this, there are three things you have to safeguard: physical health, financial health, and mental health. Mental health is so important, and it's something you want to protect at all costs. Between being a hands-on mom and an entrepreneur during a global pandemic, I made sure I still made time for myself by putting on makeup or skincare as an act of self-care. Makeup is still such a priority for many people. I got so many messages on social media from people working from home and even frontliners telling me how they turn to makeup for their well-being during a time like this. So self-care products are so important now because it empowers us to take care of ourselves physically and emotionally at this time. In a world filled with post-pandemic uncertainty, I guess people will turn to beauty products they trust because it adds an element of control back in their lives. We can't deny that fixing up, even just a little, makes us feel normal again. But to me, self-care isn't just about indulging in a long bath, a glass of wine, or a Netflix binge. Self-care is also the ability to know when your body, your mind, and your spirit need to take a step back. It's about being kind to your entire self. So I make sure to stay informed but stay sane by limiting my time on social media. Once in a while, I go offline and do a digital detox. It's healthy to filter out any noise, anything, or anyone that can cause you to get out of character or lose sight of things that really matter. Going offline is the new luxury. It's both powerful and empowering. Ultimately, if you don't make time for wellness, you'll be forced to make time for your illness.
Indeed, self-care is now not just a luxury, but given the times, it's become a necessity. Actually, with Risa's speech or Risa's message, I was actually very touched, and it struck a nerve because I could relate to how much she valued that relationship with her husband. So to my husband who's watching. Hi there. Thank you for always being there. So this is just a greeting to my husband. Anyway, at this point, thank you so much, Rissa, for that. May we call in back our panelists so that they can answer some of your questions, which we actually have compiled. Please welcome back Miss May, Uy, Miss Jane D, Miss Roxanne Farillas, and Leia Cruz. That was such a rich sequence of sessions there with varying messages, and there were a lot of things that the audience were really, really inspired, and they got inspired from. I'll start off the Q&A, and maybe I'll just direct some to those that the audience specifically asked. This one goes to Jane D, because you mentioned that company or people you love are very important, reaching out,
Correct.
right? Uh, the question goes, how do you know then, though, that they're genuine or that they're authentic? Because this is the reality in the dynamics of relationships, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not being fully upfront. So, what are your telltale signs or any tips in the matter?
Yeah, well, first of all, I really do think that you yourself have to be sincere and genuine first, right? Most people, when you approach them and when when you are your authentic self, they would know anyway the energy of it. But as you said, like there's definitely a lot of toxic people around or toxic energies, and unfortunately, you won't know that immediately. It does take time, and you will definitely find out later on. One of the things I slowly realize is no matter how much you put like you to have a proper relationship, you have to put an effort. So first of all, if you're putting a lot of effort and that person is not returning the same amount of effort, one, you would know. You would also know if they're not giving you enough attention. If you're reaching out, then you know they're not genuine, especially if you're giving them a lot of advice. And if they don't reciprocate, that's another sign. But last, I think when it comes to just being if they're actually like toxic people in your life, you really do need to create boundaries. But you will find out later, because the real people in your life you would see the difference of one that is someone that of someone that is giving you real and genuine support versus someone that's giving you something that is fake. But yeah, it does take time, but also like give yourself time to understand these people, and also give yourself and allow yourself to put boundaries around them.
Thank you very much, Jane. It's also about assessment, no? It's really
Yes.
finding out, looking at the heart of the person.
Yeah,
that you're
it's
dealing
being
with.
discerning, and it's being like, and it's self-care, right? Like you have to know, but you have to take time to understand this.
Okay, this next question actually is addressed to you, Roxanne. You mentioned that you didn't have any knowledge about marketing, advertising, as you were a finance graduate when you decided to start Planes and Prints. So, how did you actually learn it? I mean, in lieu of professional training, did you hire other people to do these things for you, or did you pursue further studies to gain knowledge on things like that? So, I guess the question speaks to, if you're not fully you haven't mastered this field, how can you take steps to learn more about it?
Actually, the nice thing about when we started Paints and Prints is that we really started from the ground. I can say that. It was just me and Erickson. We had to do IT. We had to pick up the stocks from our mananahe. We had to deliver it ourselves. I have to sell to my customers during weekends. So, it's learning the business really from the ground, and all the other aspects of the business, accounting, IT, inputting it to the computer, encoding it one by one, picking it up a warehouse, picking and packing. I've learned everything really because we can't afford to hire people, and we wanted to save money, and we really wanted to be efficient. I think for any business, efficiency is really very, very important, not just cost cutting, the efficiency wise. So we learned everything. we experience everything. So that's a good thing about it. I always tell my kids, you know, you're very lucky right now. You call this, IT comes along, you call someone, marketing will help you, graphics will come along. So we did everything talaga. I wish I had the time to study. It's maybe going back, Jingay, to our conversation a while ago, if I had something, I wish I could have done something, maybe studied more if I had time. But, you know, I was raising my kids, having the family and running the business. I didn't have time. But if I had time, maybe I could have taken some, even up to now, you know, I was telling Erickson, maybe I can have some short courses, because short courses are, you know, here, it's readily available, but I don't have time. But if I do have, I wish I had time to take short courses of marketing and even fashion designing. But as I mentioned, I work with a very supportive and very good team who understands my needs. So I just tell them what my concept is, and they can easily execute that now. Yeah, but yeah, it's very important that I think even if you have all the support group that you have, all the departments, or even friends who can help you, it would really be great if you study and do things on your own first, then ask people for their help.
Actually, that's true. There is, when it's you're doing it yourself, you learn more when you're more hands-on. I'm loving this chat group, by the way, Maine, of the SHEeo Society members watching this, because they're all really applauding our speakers and really seconding everything that they're saying. So it's actually it's such a vibrant community. I can say that already, very apparent in the chat. Here's a question for you, Leia. How do you deal with creative blocks in innovating your business? Because you have that mantra of design, right? That's it was in your presentation. So how do you deal with creative blocks?
There's really power in journaling, right? I think Ms. Roxanne talked about also that. But I'd go back to self-care when I'm really, I'd rest. If there's really a block, I'd nourish myself and just really take a rest. But and then I move on to my journal and just really look at the things that I wrote before, and then remind myself of the things I just wrote down there and be inspired. So there's.
All right. I think I asked Roxanne earlier this question, but there is an audience query about, maybe Jane and Leia, you can weigh in, and maybe even Maine. What were the biggest obstacles you faced as a woman? I think, Roxanne, you can also weigh in, because the question now phrases it as challenge specifically being a woman. And how did you overcome that difficulty? What do you think is our greatest asset as a woman in succeeding in whatever field we choose? So I think of womanhood or femininity as an advantage. I never saw it as something that was a crush. So anyway, that's regardless of what I say. Maybe let's start with Maine on that question.
Yes, I love the question. This is something that I've been teaching all of my SHEEOs in the club. So first, let's start with the struggle now. So I'm gonna be a bit vulnerable to everyone here, if that's okay. So remember in my first speech I said, like, last month, the one thing that I feared the most was suddenly fell upon me. So it was like the moment na, I think it was like that time after namin mag-live ni Jane, I received a message from a friend of a friend. And then this message contained a lot of like morally questionable things na very negative talaga, because I'm doing SHEeo. I'm showing myself. I'm just being me, doing whatever I can to inspire people, and trying my best to share and serve. So I didn't like what they said, because it really made me question, up to the point that, am I still doing the right thing here at the SHEeo Society, or should I just stop because maybe they don't like it? So just to share it lang, it was a very someone just wished my ill-fated ending. Kumbaga parang it's a very hateful comment that I didn't like from the people I thought were my friends. So I think that's one thing because we're always sexually objectified and I always feel it. Gender biases and all of that. And hindi kasi yun yung fight ni SHEeo. For us kasi it's on abundance eh. Pero when we have a way to share it, we have to. We have to speak our truth. And one thing that I feel like the best thing about being a woman, I feel that we can all bank on, especially if you're a late millennial or you're medyo on a higher generation than us or the younger, the Gen Zs or whoever, the alpha generation. So apparently that's how they call everyone born in the 2020s. So the alpha generation is that women has the capacity to be vulnerable. And for me, that's something that I always take energies from whenever I'm creating, that vulnerability. Because actually not vulnerability, it's more of like the truth that comes with it when you look within, diba? Parang, ano pa ba guys? What will you fear when you're comfortable with your own truth? And I feel like once you see that divine feminine energies from within, that's an untapped source of energy and it's very sustainable because it keeps on replenishing. All you have to do is to take care of yourself and find support group talaga and support group like same wavelength as you, support group like people like Jane, of course. We talk weekly. Having her talk to me, she's like my auntie, and now we have Roxanne and Jingay. And then of course, if you have another support than a younger than you that you can teach, all those three things, it's how you holistically, embody being a woman and how you can move forward being a woman of today. Yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry, but I want to squeeze as much questions, and as you can see, it's getting dark already. Very quickly, Jane, what do you think is the greatest asset of being a woman? And let's go to Jane, Leia, and Roxanne really quickly on this question.
Honestly, for me, I think we do have the power to be, as you said, the vulnerability is great, but I think listening. I think as a woman, especially for me, like I learned that during my professional and my professional days in my career. Honestly, like when being in a boardroom with a lot of like hardcore males and very, very, very tough characters, as a woman, when you start listening to them and you start listening intently, intentionally, and also sincerely, they do respond to you. And I feel like with that alone, you would know a person's character, you would know a person's intention, you would know the person's motives. And if you do know that, it creates a better power for you to take action. So for me, that for me is big.
Yes, Leia,
Yeah,
your take on the matter?
Yeah, for me, I think it's really God's design for women to make all things around them beautiful. So it's really our power. We nurture everything that we're surrounded with.
Roxanne.
And yes, I think women are being more patient, more passionate in what they're doing. They understand the consumers and the needs. We're more sensitive towards other people, to the workplace, to our coworkers. So we understand them better. And I think one thing good about women is that we love to communicate. We encourage and uplift one another. So that's very important. Communication is very important.
Okay, actually, this question, there are many questions, and unfortunately, I don't think we can entertain all of these questions in this session. It requires a part 2, or maybe we can hand them all over to Maine and to Roxanne and Leia and Jane, and they can probably find a way to get it to you.
Correct.
Maybe just
that's
as
fine.
a fine. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I would have loved, when women are put together in one talk, we can go on, and we can really talk for hours. Like Roxanne said, we're very good at communicating, and that is the real truth. You never hear the end of it. So I'll turn these questions over to our panelists, and we'll probably collect them and give it to Jane or to the Ayala Malls to be emailed to the people who asked that question. So maybe at this point, just final parting advice or parting word from each of our speakers. And I will do this in terms of, I'll do it alphabetically so that we're politically correct. Jane?
Right. So parting words, do not let fear drive your life. Honestly, like as I said in the first of my speech, I'm always afraid, but I do find ways to manage it. Because once you have fear in your life, you won't be able to be the best version of yourself. So please, please don't.
Very well said. The next one is Leia.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to everyone. My parting words would be always choose faith over fear.
Yeah.
Very simple, straight to the point. Choose faith over fear. Very well said. Maine?
Thank you.
So like I will just reiterate what I said a while ago to speak your truth, because whenever that's being fearless. When you're stripped down to your core, that truth that you have within you, that's gonna guide you wherever and wherever you want to go, and that's being a SHEeo.
Actually, Roxanne, before I prompt you, there are a lot of business-related questions here. So we will have Roxanne answer these things.
Sure.
Some of them are quite specific in terms of asking for advice. Anyway, parting word, Roxanne?
Yeah, just a quick 5 advice that I tell women, my who wants to be entrepreneurs. Number 1 is don't be afraid to fail. Learning makes you a better person, and don't regret anything that you've done wrong. It will make you a stronger person. Number 2, you have to love what you're doing, because if you're passionate with what you're doing, I've said this many times, it won't really feel like work, so you will excel and succeed. It's very important that you are happy with what you're doing. Thirdly, you need to believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. Have that vision to set that goal, because everything else will follow. The fourth would be, if you achieved your success, if you achieve your goals, don't forget to look back and thank the people who've helped you along the way. Be humble and have humility. Last but not the least, I think it's very, very important, is to be thankful. No matter what happens, I think you have to be thankful for everything that you received and the things that happen to you, whether it's good or bad, because it really makes you a better person. That's it.
That's true. On that note, well said, ladies. We hope to our viewers, we hope you had an enriching and inspiring afternoon or early evening already, as I can see. I'm sure you've learned a lot from our panelists, and we hope you are able to apply some of these values and lessons in your respective journeys. This has been Uplift, Conversations with Fearless Filipina Movers. And it's, of course, brought to you by Ayala Malls. Keep amazing going. Don't forget to visit the women's fairs in our various locations. And also, please do expect among the winners of those who were chosen in the randomizer, we didn't forget, we will be getting in touch with you for your gifts and prizes. So you can have that self-care pampering day that is much well deserved. Thank you to our sponsors, Philam, Vitality, and to our partner, the SHEeo Society. Thank you to our wonderful, beautiful panelists. And of course, thank you to all of you for watching. This has been Jingay Hoven de la Merced, wishing you health. Number 1, health and safety always. Have a pleasant evening. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.